This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
Yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
We've got your shot to win tickets to Summer of Loud 2025. It's Friday, July 11th at Somerset Amphitheater. See performances from Beartooth, I Prevail, Parkway Drive, and more. Go to our contest page. See how you can win today. It's KFAN.com, keyword contests.
We'll get back to a bunch of texts that came in regarding our opening salvo, regarding taking the temperature when it comes to offering up financial assistance for our favorite professional sports teams. And, of course, occasionally it could be University of Minnesota as well. But in this case, pro teams. A lot of good texts have come in on the subject, and we will revisit that shortly. We're kind of open now until 5. That's when another a Friday regular, Ben Gessling, will join about a half hour later than his usual time, and then Lavelle Enio III about 5:30. Our good friend John Bream, the legendary music critic for my former newspaper, the Star Tribune, DM'd me a link to a Rolling Stone magazine story that lays out the unveiling of a Bill Walton auction that is ongoing. It has already begun, and I think it's in effect maybe even into early June. Now, because it was Rolling Stone, they emphasized a lot of his personal possessions having to do with just an endless array of Grateful Dead memorabilia. There's pages and pages and pages, autograph stuff, memorabilia, etc. There's also, on the music side, there's, give me an example of just how much stuff. There is, Deadhead-related alone, 13 tour books dating back to 1986, listing itineraries, hotels where the band members were staying, the Uncle Sam skeleton artwork used in the Grateful Dead movie, a drum cymbal autographed by the band's 80s lineup, a poster from one of the Dead's 1966 shows at the Avalon Ballroom, about 2 decades before Walton first saw them. That's available for, it's listed, I think, as between $300 and $500, and it kind of goes on from there. In addition, there's a copy of Fleetwood Mac's all-time best-selling album, Rumors, that is personally signed by Mick Fleetwood, that Bill apparently had in his collection, a Keith Richards guitar pick from the 2000s, a Chicago tote bag with a pass from the show where he joined them on stage, and his backstage passes to shows by Phish, the Eagles, Tom Petty, The Who, as well as Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Now, the good news is, even if you don't care about the music part of Bill Walton, there's a million other things having to do, obviously, with his distinguished basketball career, sports achievements as well. And you can find, by the way, the site where I found auction items, and it's pages and pages, it's almost overwhelming, is called huntauctions.com. Huntauctions.com. And a couple of the things that caught my eye that I thought you might get a kick out of, and the listeners might as well, is a letter dated August 17, 1973 from John Wooden, the UCLA coach.
Oh, cool.
To Bill Walton. Now, I think this same letter was sent to several of the players, but it's a couple of the details that, let's see if I can zoom in on it to read a couple of these things. So here's a couple excerpts from the letter. It's like a 3-pager, typewritten. It occurs to me that the development of a UCLA varsity basketball team is much like the production of a play. The success of a play depends upon a worthy story, fine acting, and good directing, while the success of our team hinges upon a sound system. That's Wooden to Bill Walton and the players in 73. Here's another one. Have your feet tough and in shape to run without causing blisters. It's the little things no one else would think about, that if you can't run, you're kind of doomed as a basketball player, right? If you can't move your feet.
Yes, I found that out.
Side to side, Can't go anywhere. Here's another one. Be determined to do what is expected of you by those who are responsible for you and the team. Letter is signed in blue ink on the 3rd page. Coach Wooden. UCLA stationery, some light surface wrinkling. That just probably makes it look more authentic. With a few scattered toning areas, mostly on the back of the 3rd page. And there's more, I guess, to the letter. Now, that is the listed suggested price is between $2,000 and $4,000.
Wow.
For that. So a lot of this stuff ain't cheap. And I don't know. What's interesting to me is different people there's a bunch of like varsity jackets.
Yep.
There's a Bill Walton UCLA Bruins varsity basketball captain Letterman's jacket, 73-74.
Did you see the bag, like the team gear bag?
Yes.
It's like a leather.
Yes, it's beautiful.
That is appealing.
Very appealing.
Yeah.
Now, what's the listed price on that? Do you have it in front of you?
I got to scroll back up because I'm kind of flying through all of this. Right now, that's the thing. Right now, then it's the high bid is $136 for that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That sounds preposterous.
Yeah.
That'll probably go up, yeah. The varsity jacket, the suggested price, I guess I'm not really looking at the bids. This one is listed for between $15,000 and $25,000. There's 1 million trophies. There's a bunch of watches.
Yes.
That you get, like, I guess,
when you win awards.
When you win, like the player of the year, you get an NCAA watch for whatever that's worth to some people. There's his model uniform, UCLA Bruins professional model uniform. There's his United States passport from 1970.
That's funny.
Which is hilarious. I love these. If it's a person you're interested in, or you're interested in the history that he represents or she represents, it's cool to just scroll through. There's 1 million shoes.
To see what their life was.
Exactly right. 1 million pairs of shoes, as one might expect. A lot of magazine covers. There's an NBA All-Star Game, like, wardrobe bag that's available. There's a bunch of rings, too.
Yep.
This is like, it seems like almost an awful lot of this stuff is being passed on. A bunch of Blazers stuff. There's a New Hampshire Bill Walton license, not a license plate, a car plate.
Yeah, vanity plate.
Vanity plate, I guess. Autograph. He autographed it as well. How he got it, I have absolutely no idea. Signed in a blue Sharpie. So if you're into any of this stuff, you might be able to. You might surprise yourself with what you might be able to get out of it. You know, some of the stuff's going to be, like I said, very pricey. But you can be, I haven't done a lot of auctioning.
What did you just buy recently?
The only thing I bought I've ever been successful at buying was a letter from former Minnesota Senator Eugene McCarthy.
That's
this
right.
is in 68, the summer of 68. This was right before the Democratic National Convention, after RFK had been assassinated. And McCarthy wrote a thank you letter to Paul Newman and his wife, Joanne Woodward, basically thanking them for their support. And now we just got to get the job. Hopefully I'll see you in Chicago, blah, blah, blah. It's just a little type, single-spaced, one-page thing that they had in their house, which I loved because I lived through that history and it meant something to me. And I bid on like 2 or 3 things from the Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward collection. And that was the only one I got. But even that was, it's kind of cool, especially if you're selective with it and you find, in that case, I don't even think there were that many bids on it. So you never know. The thing you're interested in, there may not be a lot of other people who care about it for whatever reason. But if it hits you and you can afford it, go after it, right?
I agree totally.
A piece of Bill Walton history? Come on.
And I'm just scrolling through things, all these handwritten letters. It strikes me, you somewhere, I'm sure you can find it, have, his book that he autographed for you.
Yes, that's right.
That I picked up from Phoenix.
That's right.
And as we know, Bill Walton doesn't do anything that doesn't take forever, right? Answer a question or inscribe a book. And I asked him to sign the book for you on the way out at Westwood 1. You were not doing the Final Four that year. You were off that day. And that took another 7 minutes of his time, which made Charlie Barker bitter. But he writes this whole thing, and your dog had just passed away, Rainey, and he had just lost his dog, Cortez.
Yes.
And so he wrote this whole thing about Cortez. And how lucky are you to have that?
Yes.
I mean, when you look at some of this stuff here, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. There's and there are
the old Clipper stuff is
pages
sweet.
And pages and pages. I mean, this is a gold mine.
Josh Broughton is absolutely on this site.
It's got to be
trying to buy the old San Diego Clippers stuff.
Here's and some stuff you just can't. You never know what. It's not stuff that you could anticipate. For example, item 245. It's a wooden desk nameplate from Larry Bird's tenure as the head coach of the Pacers that somehow, some way, Bill Walton has in his possession. And that's what's kind of fun about this. The stuff that you wouldn't expect, not the obvious stuff, is in there. And like I said, there's a couple of driver's licenses. He's got one of those NBC Sports, very colorful leather jackets in here. And I don't know how many pages there are. I don't know if you have figured that out. There's a bunch of
6 pages.
Is that right? Well, I thought there was more than that.
Oh, maybe. I'm going through. Bill Walton's cigar from Red Auerbach's 75th birthday event.
Yeah. This is, and then they've got it divided up. Like some stuff you can do by phone. Some stuff is online only lots. And I think a lot of it closes not until mid-June.
Yes.
Like June 12th, if I'm not mistaken. It's great. It's I could spend hours just paging through this stuff.
I'm bringing my brand new Pono player that Neil Young just gave to me that's fully loaded and ready to go. And the high quality resolution of the music, that'll carry me through.
The Pono player.
I haven't seen the Pono player come up yet.
That would be a great one because that was the big Neil Young project. I'm going to create a player that will reveal the true fidelity in a way that all the digital stuff doesn't. I don't think it ever went over. And I don't think it was, I think the Pono player went for like $1,000.
A little pricey.
It's like $800 to $900. So I don't think it went anywhere. But is there any doubt that Neil would pass it along to Bill Walton?
I'm going to Chicago with the Grateful Dead on the 4th of July weekend.
Wow.
I am just going to stand in front of those speakers, and I am just going to absorb 3 days of music right into my entire body, have it heal every part that hurts and ails me, and then I'm just going to carry it with me, Dan, the rest of my life.
What a voice, man. What a voice. Boy, oh boy. A lot of good texts are coming in, and then there's at least one text that you'll get a kick out of that we can't make up. But anyway.
The Fan and BigDeck.com. I want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. Keyword for the 4 o'clock hour is fun. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword fun.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
The word on the street then was he's too country for pop. But then once I got to country, it was he's too pop for country. So I kind of never really had a place to fit in, but that's exactly how and why I fit. I just embraced that. Like, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, Stories from the Frontiers of Marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Apparently, your guy Brock Purdy has got a new contract extension. Somebody,
I missed
one
that.
of the snarky national folks predicted that this was going to happen fast, especially once the 2025 49ers schedule is revealed, because the theory was it's one of the most ridiculously easy schedules in the history of pro football, and if the 49ers were to wait till after a season in which they'll have no choice but to have a good record with Brock Purdy.
That's funny.
The price would go up another $10 or $15 million a year. So
you got to buy him now.
Did I see $53 million a year?
I didn't even know that happened, so let me find the particulars
I think it's just breaking as we speak, and I don't know that it's official. I think it might be a media report.
5-year, $265.
Wow.
Includes $181 million guaranteed.
That's a lot of money. That's a great deal of money.
Good luck.
By the way, among the hockey community, still bitter. It was fun listening to Dan talk about the Wild failures. Poor Dan is threatened because we are the state of hockey. Nice, cute little story the T-Wolves are. Win a chip and get back to me.
I love the chip.
Win a chip.
Yeah. Well, we're trying. What happens when they win the chip? Then do we become the state of basketball?
Did the North Stars win a chip?
I don't think so.
Have the Wild won a chip?
They have not.
Oh, his fallback will be, well, how about go for hockey? Okay. Yeah, that's great.
They lost in overtime a couple years ago. That hurt. That was tough.
Thing for another day, for sure. Let me get to some texts here. Oh, this is from Bookseller Guy. The first auction I ever won, a piece of a meteorite from the moon.
What?
In an auction for the Planetary Society. That's a good one. Now, how do you authenticate that?
Right.
How do you know?
You got to have a lot of trust. Well, I'm sure the auction house does
They're
that.
They're supposed to, but do you trust them?
I think so.
I like to think they would. Item number 501 writes, athletic fat guy is a tie-dyed T-shirt. That will probably be very popular.
Yeah, there's like a personalized Bill Walton Grateful Dead tie-dye T-shirt in here somewhere.
Gotcha.
Let me ask you this. As a guy who covered a million events and still covers events from time to time, did you have any credentials? Were you ever a credential hoarder?
Yes, but I honestly don't know where I put them.
Yeah.
I know somewhere in storage I've got a bunch. I don't have all of them. I never was somebody who was religious about it.
Right.
But I have. I think the ones I've tended to save were the Olympic badges.
Yep, that's what I was going to ask.
But I don't. I couldn't tell you where they are. That's
because
the sad part.
I ask because I am a credential hoarder. But but again, it's big events. It's like the Super Bowl, the U.S. Open, special games that have a good memory. Like I went through it a while ago. Well, when I first started, and you'll probably appreciate this, but when you first start doing this job, you can't even believe you get a credential.
Right.
So go to the game and work. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe this is my job. So, when I got here in 2003, I didn't know how long that would last.
Right.
I kept everything. I think I had the Ricky Rubio press conference.
Do you still have it all?
Not all of it. I went through a few years ago and got rid of most of just the standard daily game. I probably have them all from the 2004 Timberwolves run.
Okay.
And that was right when I first started. But I asked because Walton has some for auction, 93 NBA Finals.
Ah, okay.
96 NBA Finals, 97 NBA Finals, all the games, the different color coats and everything. The All-Star Game Media Pass, which I think is pretty cool.
Very cool. There's a photo. Well, there's a bunch of photos, but there's one. It's item number 175, unique teepee from the Bill Walton collection. Original teepee is as ordered in 1999 for Walton's personal use and grew to become an iconic experience for those who visited the Walton residence. It was modeled in the fashion of an original Sioux Native American variant, standing an impressive 16 feet. And in the one of the two photos, well, actually, the one on the left is Walton inside the teepee with Kareem. I believe. And then the one on the right, he's outside of it with Yao Ming. And what struck me about the photo is, I don't know if you've noticed this, Walton has it for a long time. He had a rule. If you recall, we had him here at the Final Four. And then after we wrapped up, I'm sure I asked for a photo or you took a photo of the two of us. And I started to do the proverbial, okay, we'll put our arms around each other because that's what you kind of do in those photos. He stopped me and said, no, this is the way we do it. And if you look at that photo, he's got both of his arms behind his back.
Yeah.
And I'm in the same pose because of it. And in the pose with Yao Ming, it's the same way.
Really?
His arms are behind his back, as are Yao Ming's. For whatever reason, Walton, that's how he apparently preferred to take photos, which I thought was kind of interesting. $500 for a 66-foot poster sounds like a deal. That I don't know about that one. Did the 49ers just overpay Purdy? I would say yes. But then again, it's the old, but then you got to have an alternative.
You got to have a quarterback.
You got to have a quarterback. You got to figure out what else you're going to do. Let me get to some of the texts we got earlier regarding whether we have any appetite any longer for helping to fund arenas or things around arenas involving pro teams, etc. This is from Ray and Hopkins, where, by the way, today is pay. Let me correct myself. Now a text from Ray in Paige Becker's, because that's true. That's the town.
Yep.
It's named after her today. It's a fact that the Wills could have paid for cash and private financing U.S. Bank Stadium without government money, except those costs that governments incur when a new building goes up, street and utilities. Same is true for the Pollards and Target Field, and yes, those owners would reap the benefits of those buildings. That's Ray and Hopkins. That's for the anti-stadium people, that I've read a variation of that letter or email or text literally thousands of times in the amount of time that I've been in this town. Did you hear John Bonus say the Pollards have $425 million in loans against the value of the Twins? I think we do know about that, don't we?
Gleeman told us about it.
Gleeman talked to us about
a
that
month or
as
so
well,
ago.
that was a part of the story with the Twins. If Minnesota can control their fraud problems, it may not have as many issues. I don't disagree with that, but that's another issue for another day. How many homeless and low-income citizens in Minnesota is enough for the politicians to prioritize them over pro sports franchises and their billionaire owners? Well, again, that's a common thread, and it sounds good, but the dirty little secret, I think, is there is not much reason to believe that some of those, if those problems were simply a function of money, for example, California would have 8 homeless. Because no state has poured more money into that, and there's still a disconnect. Something isn't working, which, again, is a reminder that money matters, but it is not always the entire story. Building stadiums with state money is stupid, and I think you'll find this really came on after COVID. The state really could have used that $500 million when COVID hit. Close a prison to fund a stadium. The Wilfs slipped in a seat license fee to offset their cost. I paid $2,600 per seat. Many were way more. Wilfs basically have nothing or very little into stadium costs. Governor Dayton signed off on it in the bill that was approved to authorize building a stadium. Check it out. That's from Pete, excuse me. We'll see if Kessler wants to weigh in on that. Why not just divert that electric pull tabs money? Well, it has been diverted in the past, and it's one of the things we talked about much earlier in the show that might be worthy of conversation.
He kept every credential. I'm just going through this.
They're still going?
Yeah, just every credential.
What irritates me is we, the taxpayers, pay half of these stadiums, and we go and pay $11.50 for a crappy hot dog and $6 for a 16-ounce of lukewarm water. Well, that's another issue. Has our food got any better? Or is it any cheap? Is it pretty much every stadium? Is it exorbitant, or do we have?
Yeah, everybody now has like the family sections where you can actually get a hot dog for like $4,
right,
as opposed to $12. But just being in San Francisco at the Chase Center, you think the prices were cheap there for the food? Walking around the concourse,
good point.
They were not, and the lines were full and the lines were long. Kind of the unspoken thing. You know you're going to get gouged.
Yesterday's segment with Sam Mitchell, pure listening pleasure, what sports talk radio should be all about. And thank you so much for going the route of listeners' questions via text rather than rambling phone calls. Quantum leap in the listenability of talk radio. Rest in peace to Bill Walton, one of the greatest ever. Where did the... I needed to find the one that was reacting to the Eugene McCarthy letter to, here it is, to the Newmans. No surprise that Barrero wanted something from Eugene McCarthy. I was waiting. Yeah. I kind of thought it wouldn't happen. It was on a tee. But it was there, and sure enough, the only reason, it couldn't be the history that letter and that time represents. Doesn't necessarily have to mean you're taking a position on the parties involved, or it could just be you remember that time. I'm a 13-year-old kid watching the company or the country break apart. The MLK assassination, the RFK assassination. You know, it was about to be violence in the streets of Chicago, Vietnam War. You know, the riotous Democratic National Convention, as it turned out. It's just, I know we got folks in our audience who are easily triggered. I get it. They're always there. They're on their guard, like, I gotta watch them. Gotta watch, Gene McCarthy, I knew it. And God bless you for being that vigilant. That's the kind of vigilance I'm sure that you'd be proud of, but it really is, what that letter represents to me is simply a piece of history from a period that I was, sadly, if you want to look at it that way, I'm old enough that I remembered it. I kind of lived through it, and I said, well, they had this in their home. You know, Paul Newman and his wife thought enough of this letter that they had it in their home, and that's just, it's kind of a nice piece that reminds me of such a momentous period in United States history. We'll make this the bottom of the hour pause, and Guardsy and DFL Dan will be back in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
The word on the street then was he's too country for pop. But then once I got to country, it was he's too pop for country. So I kind of never really had a place to fit in, but that's exactly how and why I fit. I just embraced that. Like, yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.
During the fan.
ZZ Top is bringing their iconic rock sound to the Ledge Amphitheater on June 12th. Don't miss out on this epic concert, and you can win your way in by checking out our contest page at KFAN.com, keyword contests.
So, NBA playoffs schedule, we can continue to stay connected to the event, right? On several levels, because we're still in it. We know we are in the Final Four. There's still a question about who else is in. The only two teams that are definitely in the Final Four are us and the Pacers, right? What yet to be determined are two other teams. Is it going to be Boston or New York? And New York can eliminate the Celtics tonight at the Garden in a game that I'm sure Double T will tell us will have extraordinary atmosphere.
Yep.
I can't even imagine what it might be like inside the Garden this evening.
Just New York the last few days.
No question.
Getting ready for it.
And everybody says, well, we better win this one now because we don't want to get to a Game 7 in Boston. And I think there might be some truth to that. So, as I said, we could end up playing one of those two teams, we being the Wolves, if they're able to advance. In addition, you got the Karl Anthony Towns angle. And I'm here, by the way, to stand a little tall for Cat today because he's under siege again in New York. And I don't think he had a particularly good game the last game. That was a 25-point loss. I think he got in foul trouble in that game. It was a throwback cat in terms of some of the fouling.
Yep.
But again, 11 shots. There's some game, and you can say, well, he's got to get open better. Well, some of it is they got to look for him. But let me again remind you, in their Game 4 victory, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 11 for 15 from the floor. That's pretty efficient. That ain't bad, right? How about the victory in Game 2? 21 points, 17 rebounds, 9 for 16 from the floor. He has not been, I will continue to insist, he's not been as just indefensible as some people in New York and even nationally have suggested. I just don't think it's that simple. He's not been great every game, but this team does not set up to feature him. And given Brunson's great with the ball at the end of games, I get that to a certain degree. It's hard to argue with Brunson's success, but it's just kind of interesting. I think some of the heat he's getting, is a little bit over the top.
I'm with you because I don't know what did they trade for if they're not going to use him the way that he is best utilized. And it is tricky with Brunson because in the fourth quarter, he's going to take every shot. Yeah, correct. Pretty much, right? Unless they get, a steal or something in transition or a quick rebound and go. In the half court, Brunson's basically shooting every time. So I'm just trying to figure out why they were so hot to get this guy forever if they're not going to utilize really ever what he best represents for them.
3, 6, 11, 12, 13. I'm adding up he's in this entire series, so it's 5 games so far, right? He's got 13 3-point attempts. That's not enough.
He should have at least 25.
That doesn't but maybe some of that is on him. I'm not going to pretend because there were times here, even that last year against Dallas where it felt like he's disappearing more on his own. But I do think there are contributing factors related to the way this team is set up. And again, I'll say, 21 and 17 is damn good in victory.
Pretty solid. Yeah, in victory, right.
Correct. Because you could say, well, a couple of the numbers are hollow in the losses, 21 and 15. Okay, that's fine. But in their wins, I guess you could say the game 1 win, 14 points, but 14 and 13, again, isn't awful. On 13 shots. He's not getting that many shots. Other people like Brunson's going to get like 33 shots a game, for God's sake. So, in any case, big one tonight in that regard. And then Sunday, now that Denver did extend by winning at home last night, there'll be a game 7 in Oklahoma City.
Sunday afternoon,
And now, so we know the Wolves, the game 1 will be Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
We also know we're done with home field. Next 2 rounds.
Yes.
We cannot be the home team in either round the rest of the way.
That is correct.
We have fewer victories. We have the fewest victories of anybody left.
By like 1 or 2.
By 1 or 2. Yeah. That's not prohibitive.
Yep.
But I think the Knicks had 51.
Yeah, I looked it up the other day.
Yeah, we have 49.
And I don't know why I did that, but I was curious because it does go to whoever has the most regular season wins for East and West.
Yeah. 651 guy, so pathetic. Try to convince others you aren't a leftist by the historic artifact argument. I don't label me whatever you want. I'm lefty. I'm not even. When have I run from my positions? I'm saying that I know you're triggered, man. I know you think there's something pernicious, something poisonous about being interested in a historical artifact from a politician to an actor in 1968, but it really has nothing to do with the discussion. But if that's what triggers you, then God bless you, as I said, and thank you very much for all the vigilance. There's nobody running from political positions. I'm saying it's possible to be interested in that artifact for reasons that are in some ways actually more personal. It's my town. Well, Gary, Indiana technically is my town, but Chicago is close by and it is my town. And there was historic stuff that was happening at that. I mean, this is how weird I am. I have been known to, while walking, listening via YouTube to daily coverage of the Democratic and Republican conventions in 1968. Not proud of it, but I'm some of that stuff fascinates me.
I've seen you on those walks in our neighborhood, and I've tried to wave, and you're too locked in.
I'm too locked in, apparently.
Yeah, you're too locked in on 68.
My dad had just gotten home from Vietnam during the Chicago riots, was marching with the Army, and he stopped for a red light, I should say, and got yelled at by an officer for stopping. Well, we've talked a lot about that. How dare you save a historic letter, Dan? This is from Adam from Maui Guy. I have no stake in it, but I do believe the taxpayers should fund a new Wolves arena. I want to be comfortable when I come home for the finals. Well, I
will tell you, being at Chase Center on Monday, it's a nice ballpark. Now, they've probably priced out, I mean, it's San Francisco, so they've priced out everybody on everything,
correct,
right?
Yes.
But my theory is there weren't a ton of Wolves fans there because I'm guessing the tickets were so expensive. And the next ballpark for the Timberwolves, well, the ticket sticker shock, I'm betting, especially if the Wolves go on like a 4 or 5 year run and they get this thing built, in 2030.
Oh, yeah.
Because one thing the Wolves did a really good job of like 7-8 years ago, probably longer, they recognized that they were having a tough time selling tickets, as we know, and they made 1 million of them for season ticket holders extremely affordable.
That's true.
And now they're still very underpriced compared to the NBA, but at some point, especially with a new building, that's going to change. I think part of the reason why the vibe is so good is because it has been so affordable for so long.
No question.
Younger people are in there, families are in there. Like, not saying that rich, older people can't get crunk, but it's, I think, contributed to the madhouse that the Target Center has become the last 5 years because the tickets, for the most part, are very reasonable throughout the season and even for some of these playoff games.
You know what's interesting about what you say, and I can't prove this, but if you go back to the only other period you could call a glory period for the Wolves, and that was in terms of a playoff run, 1 year, right? They were going to the playoffs every year, but it was only 1 year where they moved out of it and made a run to the conference finals. When I watch in the arena from the media seats, I feel like the crowd, and maybe this amplifies or supports your point. I do feel like the crowd is younger.
Yes.
And I think I've said this for years that one of the impressive things to me about Lynx crowds is the percentage of people who are there to watch the basketball. Not for the, any of the perks or the beautiful people as the team's good, just the basketball. They're locked in to the hoops. And I think you can make the case there's more people in a lot of those seats locked into the basketball than there might have even been the last time the Wolves were in that pretty good period where I felt like there was more of a beautiful people vibe. There were certainly people intense, but I'm amazed at how many quote unquote youngsters are in that building.
It's great.
Every night and into it. I mean, into, again, not just the scene, but the basketball.
I agree wholeheartedly. That was my observation really coming out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this might be a bridge too far, but I do think D'Angelo Russell calling him out that time.
Oh, you're still going to give D'Lo credit.
Because that's when the standing thing started. That's when. And I'm not saying.
Don't let D'Lo hear this.
No.
He'll want a ring.
Well, he started it, but then the way that team also played with Pat Bev and Jared Vanderbilt and a young Anthony Edwards and Carl kind of coming into his own, it was a combination of all of that. But it was younger people coming to the games. The prices weren't crazy. And then how the team played and kind of brought everybody in. I think that's just accelerated to it now. Now everybody's on board. I just saw Mike Breen was on the Rosillo podcast. I haven't listened to all of it, but a clip that's making the rounds is a guy, a national broadcaster who's been in here now a couple of times for the playoffs. He basically shouted out the Target Centers. He goes, no one thinks about the Target Center. He goes, that place is a madhouse now. Like compared to other NBA cities, which I don't think Minnesotans have ever been, outside of the Vikings.
No, definitely not.
Ever been accused of being a self-starting bunch. No. And I know they get bitter when they boo. Tim Conley talked about it like 2 games into the season.
That was,
And it's like, well, first of all, you guys were playing like crap. Second of all, ticket prices have gone up a little bit. And third of all, they care. They want to see, and they
care. Yes,
they watched
invested.
you play a different way for long stretches, and that's what got them excited. So I would not be mad about that. But it's definitely a younger crowd, and they're there to have a hell of a time and impact the game. And it was interesting to hear Mike Breen talk about that as a guy who sees all of them, obviously.
Ask Guardsy, this is from John, the mail carrier, if we should just build the new Wolves Arena in Indianapolis and we can commute there for home games, they would build it better. Anyway, they do have a nice arena.
It's
dated, right?
Banker's Life?
Yeah.
Whatever it's called now?
It was Conseco once upon a time, right?
Yeah.
Same one.
Yes.
Is it dated? I loved it in there. I loved that.
It's nice.
It's a nice, it's a field house feel. They're trying to get the Indiana field house feel is the whole point, which is true to that town. And I don't know how you make it true to Minnesota in some way where you feel like there's something about the state of basketball in it. I think that's what you're looking for, right? Isn't that a lot of it?
Yes.
That's what you
Yes, absolutely.
have to find out about it. Do championships have sway with the state houses, House and Senate when it comes to votes on funding stadium relief? Target Center is going to be the downtown crown jewel. That's John. It's a fair question. I don't think it hurts. I don't know that it carries the day, but I do think this. If your program is awful, I think it is very hard to get any momentum started, even if ultimately you don't get the money that you're looking for. I do think it can stand in the way, and I do think you can get a little bit of momentum if there's a sense that whatever that team represents, it's in the sports culture. People are paying attention to it. It feels like it's vital. If it doesn't feel like it's vital in a sports sense, then I don't think you have much chance to convince people that it should be vital in a larger sense either. Do you?
No, winning helps.
It always
with that
does,
vitality. Yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of wind at your sails. That's when everybody raises ticket prices, when they start winning, right? That's
true.
Which is the cynical thing and which is kind of the crappy thing in a way, but it also is the smart thing to do if you're trying to run a business because the demand is so high. But yes, winning would definitely, it'd be a lot easier to build a new arena if you're coming off a couple of chips or NBA Finals appearances and there's some momentum behind you.
Dan, this is from Scott in Duluth. Only righties get triggered by things they deem only for them, like religion. That's Scott in Duluth. Don't text me. Text Scott in Duluth if you want. Dan, there's no way, writes Jeff from Richfield, that guy knows what the word pernicious means. Now, that's vicious right there. That's
listener on listener crime.
That's uncalled for.
You hate to see it.
There are rumblings out of New York that Towns has a hand injury, hence the lack of threes or even 3 attempts. That's interesting. I had not heard that. I guess that would be possible. I wouldn't particularly surprise me. I didn't get to it with Conley, and I don't think we're going to have a top 5 at 5 because Ben Gessling is going to join us to talk Vikings and Vikings schedule, other football things at the top of the hour. But
did you see the note from Albert Breer that when the owners all come here next week to Eagan, future home of the NFL draft, they're apparently going to vote on possible reseeding for playoffs.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean like after each round, that kind of thing?
No, I think with what just happened with the Vikings and Lions.
I see.
We'll get all the details, but it's at least something that they might be thinking about.
Very interesting.
But anyway, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, one of the developments to watch for the next series, regardless of who the Wolves play, is whether DiVincenzo can kind of, if a door got opened for him in the last game, and you can't overreact to a single game because things happen in that game, but we saw, I think, that was his best game, right?
Yes.
Dare say, am I forgetting a game early in the Lakers series? Maybe I am, but certainly of this series, and that's, I think, again, I like Conley said, realistically, you're probably going to play better teams the closer you get to the end. And I think you got to have more. If the strength of the Wolves is the numbers.
That's it.
We've got basically 7 starters or 8. If you want to count Nas, right? Then you need, the only way you prove that point is that they all in their own way have some effectiveness. And that was the first game where I thought, well, he's active. He's involved. You don't need him to score 30 points necessarily. You need him to hit a few shots. You need him to get some rebounds. You need him to just be noticeable. And there have been too many games down the stretch where he wasn't. That's been, of course, Randall has been influential in pretty much all of them as well. So we'll see if that's something that can be carried over because that would be, I think, very helpful.
Oh, and those bench guys can't hurt you loudly. You know,
right.
Like Dante will have very loud turnovers, right? Bad passes, quick shots, mistakes. losing the ball, things like that. Nas is like that from time to time, too. He hasn't been great this whole stretch.
It's true.
He had the great closing stretches in the L.A. series, and obviously when he hits because you're right, the strength in numbers, every time the two teams go to their bench, I'm conditioned as a Wolves fan to go, this is where the Timberwolves need to separate by 6 to 8 points. This little stretch, the last two series, because of just the lack of depth on both teams. Oklahoma City now is a much deeper group. So if it's Oklahoma City, the Wolves bench is, having them extend a lead is probably asking for too much, but at least keeping the game reasonable and manageable, I think is a reasonable expectation. But if you are going to pound your chest about the depth has to be more consistent.
There's no question about that. And, I alluded to this on Enough Said, because we do talk a lot of basketball tonight. I think we're on the Plus back at 7:30 and then on Fox 9 at 10:30.
Correct. Yep.
Tonight. If you want to play the game of, how is their second best player playing compared to our second best player or scorer, certainly. And you'd say, well, right now, if it's Wolves, Okie City, that's advantage Wolves.
It is.
Because Jalen Williams, I'm looking at his numbers.
Make sure you get the right Jalen Williams.
Oh, that's right. There's two, aren't there?
PA went down the rabbit hole with the wrong one today.
Did he really?
It was very funny.
Yeah, I got the right one because he's averaging, the right one's averaging 16.7 field goal attempts a game.
Yep, that's the one.
So he was, I think, close. He's like a 48% shooter in the regular season. He's at 42.5. From 3 points, he's 24%. And to me, that's the Oklahoma City weakness is, do they have a second scoring source they can count on? In the regular season, they did, but they haven't yet. Now, on the other hand, they're one victory, home victory, away from advancing to the Final Four. But so far, you could say that our second guy, Julius Randle, has been much more consistent as a scoring threat, and Williams has missed a bunch of shots and has not been helpful to Shea, whose numbers are very solid thus far. Although even his 3-point percentage, he's a 25.9. So that to me is if every team's got a weakness, and for me, OKC, it's sometimes their scoring can go away on them a little bit. Their defense is probably the best in the league.
Yeah.
But that's some of the issue. And right now, Julius Randle is going a lot better than the Jalen Williams that is the second most important player to the Oklahoma City offense.
It's what Draymond told us Wednesday night.
Yeah.
If you have a number two that can get it, you got a chance. And they do.
No top 5 at 5, so apparently you're off the hook unless you want to do a 520 sports fix. That's up to you.
We could squeeze a sports fix in
if
for Gutter Helen in Minnesota.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. But let's catch up with Ben Gessling. We'll get any leftover observations he has regarding the Vikings' schedule. And any other, pro football nuggets, including a little bit of breaking quarterback news today that does not involve the Minnesota Vikings, but still is getting a lot of attention around the league. Ben Gessling is now.
Okay, have you heard about this? Last year, Degree changed the formula for their Cool Rush deodorant. Their fans rebelled and wanted the old scent back. And Degree listened. That doesn't happen often.
They admitted that they effed up and are bringing the original Cool Rush scent back. And it's exactly how you remember it. Cool, crisp, and fresh. There's a reason it's the #1 men's antiperspirant, and it's back in Walmart, Target, and other stores for under $4.
So try it and see what the fuss is about. Head to your local stores to try the OG Cool Rush for yourself.
Military veterans and active duty service members, you could become a certified cyber warrior with just 12 weeks of training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, and IT pros with these skills often enjoy abundant opportunity and a great lifestyle. Protect our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
Wasabi Technologies is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from those old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams around the world. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, Wasabi is driving innovation in data storage, all for up to 80% less than those other guys. Try them out for free at wasabi.com.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
Yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.